Welcome to the Pretend Pros, the sports podcast where the takes are hot and the expertise is questionable.
Definitely questionable. So we're your hosts. I'm Beth Painter. Jenny has dubbed me the semi-expert. That feels like we're overselling that just a little bit. I think it's mostly because I regularly say to her, "Hey, did you hear this?" And she says, "I don't even know who that person is." So that's where we're starting from.
Yes. And I'm Jenny Hoffman. I am deeming myself as the rookie, and that is because, to Beth's point, I hardly ever know what she's referring to, and I learn a lot from her, and I am just all about the vibes and the crowd work of, being a fan in sports. So that is where my love for the game comes from, but definitely a rookie. And we are coming to you from Charlotte, North Carolina. Our plan is to bring you everything in sports from the lens of genuine fans. So we're trying to make this a weekly podcast. And this week, it's time to go dancing. I don't mean salsa. Even though I love to salsa, I don't mean salsa.
I feel
This
like
is a
that's the
different...
vibes part, right? It's the
Yes,
vibes coming through. More the vibes, a little less the actual sport. Yep.
yes. So, this week, dancing is all about buzzer beaters, 3 points, and Cinderella stories. That's right, we're talking March Madness. It has arrived, and I don't know about you, Beth, but this is my absolute favorite time of the year. I probably would say it might be better than Christmas because I am literally watching basketball from, noon until probably midnight when some of these games end. I remember there was one year for March Madness that I actually had 4 different TV screens set up
Yep.
so I could watch all the games. Now we have YouTube TV and you can put it on the multi-game view. But back before I had that, I was literally set up with 4 different screens, watching every single game that I possibly could, just so I wouldn't miss any of the action.
Yeah, I don't have YouTube TV, so I'm still doing the multi TV. So I have one on that's like an outside TV that I roll in. And then occasionally, if it gets crazy, I also have the laptop. And I have a good friend who is not a sports fan, and I once sent her the shot of the laptop on the lap and the 2 TVs, and she just was like, "I don't even understand what's happening at your house right now. Like, how are there this many sports?" I was like, "It's March Madness, duh."
Yes, yes. And actually, I think I don't have this like actual stat. So this is when the rookie part comes in. But I'm pretty sure this is the biggest time of year for corporations and streaming. And
Yep.
everyone, streaming on their devices, taking up the bandwidth, I think is pretty popular this month. So
Yeah, I
definitely a
think
lot of
this
people
Thursday and
interested.
Friday are the two least productive days in like corporate America. And I actually got yelled at once for streaming at work. Somebody on the IT side sent me a note that said they were having some bandwidth like challenges somewhere else in the organization and they were just casually looking through where the issue might be. And, was there something I was doing that was unique that day that, might be causing an issue? So I switched to my personal phone after that so I didn't get yelled at again.
Lots of people do it, I'm sure. So very,
Yes.
very common this time of year.
Yep.
So before we jump into brackets and kind of our picks for the 2026 tourney, it may be helpful to explain how we got to this point of actually even starting this podcast. So I don't know, would you say like 3 or 4 years ago, I
Yeah.
had, yeah, I had this great idea um, that I wanted to see all 50 states. Actually, I probably had that idea a couple years before, probably around COVID. But as part of this, I needed to see Iowa. What do you see in Iowa? I have no clue. So,
Particularly in February, just to be really clear.
yes, yes.
You're not
February in
strolling through
Iowa.
the fields in February.
Yeah. So I was trying to come up with an idea of what in the heck I was going to see in Iowa. And I decided, hey, how about I time it with a men's college basketball game because I love college basketball so much. And, I don't want to go by myself. So I call up Beth and I'm like, hey, Beth, I have this great idea. It's wonderful. It's going to blow your mind. You are going to be in on it like the moment I talk about it. And I said, how about we go and see Iowa State? They are
Yeah,
playing
no, no,
Kansas.
that's
Oh,
definitely
no,
not. You
no?
just said, "Hey, do you want to go to Iowa with me?" And I was like, like I've been to Iowa, like when? February. What are you gonna do in Iowa in February? And that's when you hooked me in. You
Okay.
definitely, it was like the slow fishing kind of like where I was like, nope, nope. Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so note to self, I need to do better on my selling when I have these big ideas for trips. But I had found out that Iowa State was going to be playing Kansas. Obviously, Kansas is a huge basketball school. I do not like Kansas at all. So I was deciding that I was going to become an Iowa State fan for this particular game. That's as far as this plan was going to go. I was going to show up at the game. I was going to root against Kansas, and I was going to be a fan of Iowa State for that day. And so we go on this trip in February. I think we get there at what, like 10 p.m. at night or
Yeah.
something.
Late, old,
Late.
snow.
It was cold. It was very cold. It was very difficult to find the car at the airport, so that took us some time. So we were definitely off to a great start. So we were only there for the weekend. It was literally just in and out for this game. We drive up to Ames, beautiful campus, by the way. So shout out to
Snow
Iowa
covered, but
State.
beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Small, quaint. I think they're known for agriculture, is the
I think
vibe I
so.
get.
Yeah.
But we roll into Ames for the game, and it's at Hilton Coliseum. And I bought a shirt for the special occasion, so I was invested. This is the best $10 shirt I ever bought in my life. I swear to you, I wear it every March, multiple times a week, probably. I do wash it. I do wash it. But I love this shirt. It is definitely, like I said, the best $10 I ever spent. So I roll up in my Cyclones gear, and Beth, what do you roll up in?
Yeah, I don't wear other school stuff. So obviously I went to IU. We'll talk about why I'm wearing a football t-shirt, not a basketball one. But so I wore my IU sweatshirt to their game, my Indiana sweatshirt. I don't wear other school stuff. That does not happen. Fortunately, they're not a Big Ten team and the colors aren't that far off. So I don't know that anybody noticed it. But yeah, I did not buy a Cyclones t-shirt, that's for sure.
Yeah. And yeah, you definitely thought I was crazy for doing that. You're like, seriously?
Yes.
Like, you know nothing about this school. Like, why are
Because
you
Iowa
investing
won
this money?
one game once. I enjoyed the game, but that was sort of the end of my fandom in this scenario. Not Jenny. That's not how she rolls.
Yeah,
Full
yeah.
adoption of this team. Yeah.
So I got the banner of all the players. I got the pom poms. I was like all in.
Didn't you get the like one of the free?
Yeah, we had a cup. I got two banners, yeah, and posed with them like down near the court. I tried to get the mascot side in my photos. I was all in. We were like, I think literally sitting in the very last row at the top,
Yeah,
right?
certainly one of the last. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I think it was the last. Now that you say that. Yeah.
Yeah, and we had great fans beside us. Definitely, like, I don't even know if there were hardly any Kansas fans in
Yeah.
that stadium. It was definitely mostly Cyclone fans. But it was great. They had a whole dance to some song called Get Juicy. Like, men, women, kids, everyone was doing this dance except for Beth and I because we had no clue what was happening. But it was definitely a very cool atmosphere, and they ended up crushing Kansas by probably
And they were
close
both
to
good
like
that year.
20.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And this was, I think, the first year that Taman Lipsy was
Yeah, he was
on the
definitely on the
team.
team. Yeah.
Yeah, so because he's a senior this year, so yeah, probably his first year. But it was a great game, and I said, okay, I am invested. They are my team for this tournament, and I came back. I brought all my gear to the office. I put it in my office and displayed it. It's still hanging to this day, 3 or 4 years later. I still get asked when I'm on, video calls, hey, did you go to Iowa State? I went to Kansas. I actually just had that happen to me from someone the other day. Like, well, I've only been there once, but I think it's a fabulous school and a fabulous team, and, they are my adopted team.
People ask me afterwards. They're like, oh, I don't know why I thought Jenny was from Ohio, but she obviously is from Iowa. And I was like, nope, nope. Been there once, one game. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, I don't have explanations beyond that. At the end of the story.
Yeah. So, fast forward to last year, I was able to see them play at Kansas State because Kansas was another state that I had to visit. So I said, okay, what am I going to do in Kansas? Why don't I try to time it with an Iowa State game? So I actually got to see them in the final game of the regular season last year. They beat Kansas State, so I like to consider myself a good luck charm because they have now won actually every single time I've seen them live. So I pretty much am saying that I need to be invited to all the Iowa State games because I am the good luck charm. So,
But I
yes.
think in like classic Jenny fashion, you clearly adopted this team full send, right? No, no. But I feel like at one point I made a comment about Tyrese Halliburton, who plays for the Pacers, who, to be clear, went to Iowa State and played for them, and you did not know that fact. So your
No clue.
adoption is kind of like skin deep, right?
Yeah,
Full
yeah,
send, but not deep, that's for sure.
yeah. No clue that he played there. He's probably one of their top. Actually, I think you knew a running back that was
Yeah, because he
sitting
was at the
in the
game. Brees
stands
Hall was
for
at
our
the
game.
game. Yeah.
Yeah, no
I did
clue.
not know, to be fair, I didn't know he went to Iowa State. He was at that game and we Googled him. So
Okay.
I think that's how we figured that out. But I did know Tyrese Halliburton had gone there. And then I think since then, you've texted me that your guy, when he got engaged, you were like, oh, my guy got engaged at my school. It's like the school you've been to once? Yep. Okay. Got it.
Yeah. Well, and now I can claim Brock Purdy because, he
Yep.
went
Also
there.
went there.
So, you
Yep.
know, we're representing out in the world. I'm very proud. But yeah, so I got to see them play last year. I got to see the women play, which was awesome. And I even got a picture up close and personal with Cy. Now I have a hat, which I'm sure at some point on this podcast you will see me wear the hat. I have socks. So I am like all Iowa State Cyclone out. And I'm just like dripping in all the gear. So that's kind of how we got to, hey, we should start a sports podcast because
Yeah.
I am just very random and Beth has all the knowledge. So why don't we put it together and, see how it works? But Beth, why don't you kind of share a little bit about the Indiana side of the house?
Yeah, so that was the first trip Jenny and I had taken. We did actually also take a trip to see the IU men. And so I think this time of year, obviously I went to Indiana. I actually went to Indiana, just to be clear, spent 4 years on campus. My fandom is legitimate and was hard earned. And so this year, and actually in the last couple of years, they've not been great. It's actually how I became a women's basketball fan, is that the men's team had not been doing particularly well. The women's team was doing really well, so started watching them quite a bit. Jenny and I traveled to Atlanta to see the men's team play. Lost that game. Apparently, I'm not the good luck charm. She is. But so this time of year, I always think about, when your team isn't doing well. I've struggled a little bit to pay attention to basketball this year because actually this year both the men and the women's team have not been great. The women are sort of in a rebuilding. I'm hopeful the men are in a rebuilding. I guess we'll find out next year if this is rebuilding or just an ongoing continuation of the challenges. So fortunately for me, we're now a college football team. Got to go to the Peach Bowl with Jenny to see them. So that is sort of placating me a little bit in my Hoosiers fandom. But when I was thinking about the tournament and how even when your team isn't very good, somehow I still find my way into loving March Madness. And
Yeah.
so definitely a lot more fun when you have a team to cheer for sure. I have loved those years when Indiana's been better. But I think what I love about sports and what Jenny and I have connected on is that we just love the stories, right? We love them. And March Madness is the perfect embodiment of that because you have, with the automatic qualifying concept, you have a lot of teams that if this was just the best 68 teams in the country would realistically not make the tournament. But there's some great stories out there. And it's so fun to watch because every now and then, if you're an IU fan and Purdue loses to the 16 when they're a 1, that gives you all you need to sustain you for a couple more years while you wait for your team to get better again. So I think as part of that, we were trying to think through what would we talk about with March Madness as our first episode. If you want analytics of who matches up with who best, there's 1,000 other people that are way more qualified. If you want somebody to be mad about who got in the tournament, who didn't, right? That's, if you listened to yesterday and on Sunday when they did the selection shows, you got lots of that. Bruce Pearl, not happy his Auburn Tigers are not in it. So we figured there's that space is taken, what we would do is just talk about some of the fun stories. And so we're going to do a little bit of a draft of some underdogs. So we have not shared notes. We don't know who each other's picking, so we could swipe teams from each other and just talk a little bit about why we pick them. I think we both know realistically these teams are probably not making it too far, at least not into the Final Four. But I thought it would be kind of fun to, to talk about the game from that perspective and sort of highlight some of these fun teams that we're at least going to cheer for and hope for a good story.
Cool. And speak for yourself. I actually did pick a couple of these in my actual bracket that I put together, so I am standing by these.
I have a couple, to be fair. I don't know how far they're going to go, but yeah, couple.
Well, I didn't say they made it to the Final Four, for sure.
Sure, yeah.
I don't even think these teams are making it to the Sweet 16, to be fair. But round one, for sure. So, all right, you want to kick us off? You want to do this like every other team? Okay.
Yeah, we can go every other.
Yep, that works.
So I'm taking the first one because I know you were eyeballing them yesterday. We were texting a little bit. So I'm taking Queens. So Jenny texted me yesterday and said, "Oh, that's such a good story." And I said, hands off. I saw them last week. They've been on my list. They're actually a little bit of how I thought this might be a fun segment is because when they qualified last week by winning their tournaments, I actually, this is a little embarrassing, they're in Charlotte. I did not know that. I had not heard of them.
And what conference are they in? I don't even know if I know that. Do we know?
Atlantic Sun. I made a note of that. So they're in the Atlantic Sun. So they are a school of 2,000 students, which, having gone to a huge school is hard to imagine. This is their first time ever making the tournament, which is fantastic. But this is also, I don't know if you caught this part of the story, this is their last year as a standalone school. They are merging with Elon. So this is not only their first year, but I guess their last year because I don't know what they're naming the new school. When I Googled it, I don't think they've decided that, but they won't be the same Queen's University that they are today a year from now. So I just thought that was a funny story. Sadly for them, they got Purdue in the first round. So while I would love another upset as an IU fan, I'm not sure that that's going to happen this year. And I actually have Purdue picked in my Final Four, to be fair. So, but I'd be happy to watch an upset if that's how this plays out.
So you say 2,000 students. I was actually just Googling really quick if I could find the answer. I'm not pulling it up at the moment, but how does that even qualify them to be a D1 school? Because I came from a school of like 2,400 kids, and that was a D3. So I'm curious.
Maybe I've got the fact wrong then.
Well, they have to be D1 if they're in this playoff.
No, I mean maybe they don't have 2,000 students. I'd read that somewhere. And maybe that's like on campus and there's some other programs. And as we all know, like Google doesn't always get it right. So either way, I think they're a very small school, and that's probably part of why they're merging with Elon, I would assume, is, just the financials of all that. But either way, I think it's a fun story.
And the sad thing is this has been in our backyard the whole time, and we never went and saw a game because I don't recall any coverage of it just in like the local media around here.
Yeah, and I'm going to be honest, I don't even know who else is in the Atlantic Sun, so I'm not even sure who their competition is, but they're obviously coming in on automatic qualifiers. So I would have to think no matter what, even if the game is maybe not going to be as close as they would like it, it's still a fun story. Like to do the first thing, something for the first time ever at your school, that's pretty cool. Those kids will get to tell that story forever.
Yeah.
How they get to play them. I love that for those kids. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. My first team is going to be the Akron Zips.
I thought you might take them.
Yeah. Of course. If Kent State was in it, it would hold a special place in my heart since that was in my backyard growing up. But I definitely have to take a MAC team for sure. A little bit of controversy. I guess maybe we'll see it in your picks with Miami of Ohio and whether or not they were going to get in, but it does look like they have a play-in game. But since Akron won the MAC, which I think is Mid-Atlantic Conference, they have an automatic bid. So the reason I'm picking them, so they're up against Texas Tech. Texas Tech is a 5 seed. Akron is a 12 seed in this tournament in the Midwest section. Just jotted down some notes as to why, and some of mine you'll be surprised with the knowledge that I gained out of this
Hey.
exercise. But I know Texas Tech, just being in the Big 12 and because I follow the Cyclones, great conference in my opinion. I think it's one of the strongest conferences when it comes to men's college basketball. But Texas Tech has been, I think, struggling as of late. They lost one of their best players who was actually up for a Naismith award this year to an ACL injury. And since then, they have lost the last 3 straight games to close out the end of the year. And one of those was a 22-point blowout by Iowa State.
Like
So,
how you snuck that in there.
yes, yes, yes. So, a couple things about the Zips. They have never made it to the second round of the tournament. So, I think they've been there 7 times. I learned that fact and have never made it out. So, that is kind of why I am rooting for them as the Cinderella team. And with Texas Tech having one of their strongest players out for the rest of the tournament, I'm hoping maybe that creates a little bit of a window for the Zips to kind of push through. But the last year they were in the tournament was actually last year, and they lost to the number 4 Arizona Wildcats, which we know is a strong team. They're a
Yeah.
strong team this year as well. So I don't know how bad the loss was, but maybe they have a chance this year. And I also want to sneak in, because this is kind of why I picked this team as well. The best showing from a MAC conference team was Kent State back in 2002. I remember watching this tournament. They made it to the Elite Eight. It was such big news, and a famous player was on that team at that time. You want to take a guess at who it was?
Ooh, I do not know who played for the Zips.
He played both basketball and football.
Oh no, I don't think I know who this is.
Yeah, he ended up going pro in football, I think for the Rams.
Okay.
Here's where my rookie knowledge comes in. But it was Antonio Gates. And he ended up
Okay.
being
Did
on
not know
that
that.
Elite Eight team. So a good part of history there, and it was a great story at the time. And another reason, why I fell in love with the tournament, because it
Yeah.
was so close to home. We went to a lot of those home games, during the year, and it was just a fantastic story at the time. So maybe the Zips will be able to recreate some of that magic. I don't think they're
Yeah,
getting
they
to the
do feel
Elite
like they
Eight.
have a better shot of winning at least round one. I have them picked in my bracket too.
Yeah,
And fun fact, that's where my high school graduation was at
mine
Akron.
too. EJ
Yeah, I
Thomas.
think we talked about that before.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, go Zips.
But I they would play the winner of Alabama or Hofstra. Maybe they might make that one too, but I don't
Yeah.
see them making it much further than that. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I also Googled today like the best mascots. Somebody just ranked teams based on their mascots, and Akron was actually the second team because it's a kangaroo. And
Kangaroo.
like what else do you have to say? Kangaroo. I think that was literally the quote was like, their mascot's a kangaroo. Next. All righty. Well, since we're staying in Ohio, I will go ahead and take my MAC team. So I did take Miami of Ohio.
Yeah.
I think that was the only controversy that I was sort of paying attention to going into it. And now that they actually have a loss in their conference tournament, I'm actually good to root for them. Because again, my lens of most sports, particularly college sport, all college sports, I guess, is through the lens of being an Indiana fan. So, fun fact, last undefeated season on record in college basketball, the IU Hoosiers. So every year when somebody is on a hot streak, I get a little bit nervous because this is a record that has stood for 50 years. In fact, this year, I guess the only thing the team celebrated because they're not making it to the tournament is we celebrated the 50-year anniversary of the last undefeated season, which was the 75-76 season. So while I think lots of records are meant to be broken, I do think Hoosiers feel like this is their record and it should never get broken. So a couple of years ago, I actually went to the Final Four because I thought Indiana was going to be there. This was the Cody Zeller.
Okay.
I'm drawing a blank on the other player that got drafted. But anyway, I really thought we were number one most of the year, preseason number one, all of that. Unfortunately, they ran into Syracuse in the second round, but I had tickets to the Final Four, so I went. And that year, Wichita State was undefeated going into the Final Four. And I really wanted to root for an underdog because who doesn't love that story? But the idea of them taking our undefeated record, I'm not going to say I wasn't a little bit okay when they lost in the Final Four and I didn't have to worry about our record. So I'm rooting for the Red Hawks only from the perspective that now they cannot take the IU record, and I'm okay with that.
So I had no idea that Miami of Ohio was the Red Hawks. They're the Red
Yes.
Hawks?
Yep.
No clue.
Yep. We talked about
Interesting.
doing a mascot thing. Maybe we'll do that for one of our episodes. Maybe not the very obscure teams, because like if you
Yeah.
were to ask me some of these, I'm not getting those either. But yeah.
Well, one of my picks has a logo that looks just like a professional football team.
Okay.
so, so I'll leave you wondering who that is.
Yeah.
All right, for my second pick, I am going to take the McNeese Cowboys.
There you go.
That's another one that Beth, you probably kind of guessed that I may lean towards just because of the story coming out of last year. But the McNeese Cowboys, they are a number 12 seed as well in the southern region, and they are going up against the 5 seed Vanderbilt. They won out in the Southland Conference. Never heard of that conference before,
Okay.
but that is the conference they won out in, and it is their third consecutive appearance in the dance. Fun fact, did not know this until I did my research. Joe Dumars is their most famous
Wow.
alumni. So, for those of you at home listening, Joe Dumars, if you don't know, is a Detroit Piston. I believe he won a couple championships. He played with Isaiah Thomas and was part of the Bad Boy group in the late 80s, early
Yeah, that
90s.
sounds right. Yep.
Yeah. So, McNeese, they have a .843 winning percentage over the last 3 seasons, which is another fun fact. They are the third best team out of the whole tournament behind Houston and Duke as far
Wow.
as winningest percentages.
That's
So
cool.
that I found to be very interesting as well. Plus, the whole reason that I'm picking this team, if you know anything about the story coming out of last year, is they have a student manager named Amir Ora Khan, if I said that right, and he executed more than 20 endorsement deals during last year's tourney. I think he had a sports trading card. He definitely had shirts. He had, I think, socks
I
with
was just
his
gonna say, I thought
picture
there were
on
stocks.
him. Yeah, he had it all. I even think maybe Buffalo Wild Wings had signed him with an NIL
Yeah,
deal.
I remember that commercial
Like,
now.
yeah, how many student managers get
Yeah.
NIL deals? So super cool. If you recall, he was actually the student manager who went viral for basically being the team's hype man as they were walking out of the tunnel. And he had his boombox with the rap
Yeah,
music,
like
and he was, yeah, like, I don't know if it was like around his neck or he was carrying it, but he was definitely the ultimate hype man. And because I love the vibes that sports give, I feel like this is a feel good story. And I really hope to see great things this year from the team and from him. And actually, I guess after last year's tourney, I don't know if he followed the coach or followed someone from that team to NC State. And so
hmm.
he spent time there. I don't know if it was a full year, but he ended up coming back because McNeese is local to where he was born and raised. And so he came back, and now they have their student manager and their ultimate hype man. So can't wait to see what that team does in the tournament.
You gotta love that how like these teams that, lots of people haven't heard of, right? That I honestly I don't know where McNeese is, like what state or city they're in. But you gotta love it, like they take advantage of this opportunity to kind of find a fun way. It's sort of like the Chicago, that Loyola team
Yes, with
with,
Mary Catherine, or
yeah, I
what
can't think of
was
it.
the,
Yeah, but we're
yeah,
talking about the
yeah.
the nun who was sort of their good luck charm as well. So, you never know what's going to break through in this day and age of like social media and interest stories.
Yeah, I think McNeese is located somewhere in Louisiana. So
Okay, that
if
sounds
that's
right.
not right, someone check my facts on that and write to us if I'm wrong, but I believe they are based somewhere in Louisiana.
All right. Well, I will pick my throwing it back to last year team as well. So I picked St. Louis. I wasn't quite sure
Oh,
which side they were going to end up on, but they are a 9 seed. So they qualified. I think our underdog rule was they had to be a 9 seed or larger. And so I'm picking them because of Robbie Avila. I don't know if you remember him from last year. He was on the
no.
Indiana State Sycamores last year, and they actually did pretty well. They went pretty far into the tournament. And having gone to school in Indiana, obviously I have lots of friends who are Sycamores. So it was kind of a fun story to root for. But my favorite part for him last year was he got all kinds of fun nicknames. So when I Googled it to make sure I was getting the naming right, there was actually a long list of them. But the one I think I remember from last year was they called him Cream Abdul-Jabbar. So not Kareem, but because he's white, he got to be Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And so the official Google explanation was this was a nod to his height, his skill, and his goggles, not his Googles, his goggles, which sort of looked, I guess. I mean, were you to put him and
Yeah.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, I'm not sure you're
Okay.
getting the similarity, but so he since transferred from Indiana State to St. Louis this year. And so as a 9 seed, obviously they have a little bit of a better chance. They are playing Georgia this weekend. So I'll be rooting for Robbie and his Billikens instead of his
Yes.
Sycamores.
A couple things. What is a billiken? I have asked
Like
Doug
an
this
elephant
before.
looking thing. I'm not sure if I know exactly what the animal is, but it looks like an elephant. So maybe in the
Okay.
elephant family.
Okay.
Yeah.
All I know about it is it's a great medical school. That's what I
Yeah.
know.
Yep. I
So,
actually think, and maybe a good law school. I feel like I know some people who went to law school
okay.
there too. So yeah. But apparently they also have Robbie, and so that's all they're going to need this year. Yeah.
All right. So my third team is South Florida. And this is
Mm.
the team, and I don't know
Bulls, I
if,
believe.
is that, yes, the
Yep.
Bulls. But it looks just like the Rams. So
There
at
you go.
some
Yep.
point,
Yep.
just different colors. So
Yeah.
that, I was like, man, I've seen this logo before. And lo and behold, it's definitely the Rams logo. Yeah, the South Florida Bulls in the East bracket, they are an 11 seed going up against Louisville, a
I
number
actually have them picked as
6
well.
seed. You have the South Florida Bulls?
Yeah.
Okay,
Not
okay,
on my underdog team, but on my actual brackets. Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I actually
Yeah.
may have picked a good one then. So they won the American Athletic Conference to secure a bid into the tournament. You know, I didn't have as much time to do background on all of the stories for this team, but you know, I read some blogs, kind of watched some podcasts and whatnot, and everything I've been reading mentions that they have a really strong offense, consistent with their scoring and their rebounding, assisting, all of that. And they actually have a first-year coach. I guess this is the story that kind of grabbed my eye. So I believe it's Brian Hodgson. Don't quote me on that. He seems to have done a 180 with the team since taking over for this season. They have achieved their first conference title in the past 36 years and their first NCAA bid since 2012 with him at the helm. The 2012 squad just fell short of the Sweet 16. So their motto, what I've read, is not done yet. And this is my fun fact from this team. Bruce Pearl, the infamous Bruce Pearl, has even picked them as the sleeper team to
Well, you
at
can't pick
least
Auburn,
win.
so you've got to pick somebody else.
Yes, so I'm going with Bruce Pearl on this one, and
Yeah.
I am picking the South Florida Bulls.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they have a good chance of being one of those, like, there's always a good, 5-12, 6-11 upset. They feel like a good opportunity.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, my next one, nice and easy, Texas A&M. And the reason I picked them, again, through the lens of everything Indiana, they have a former IU player on their team. That's legitimately it. That was, I Googled, because I was watching Ohio State this weekend, and there was a player on the team, and I was like, why do I know that name? I'm like, oh, that guy played for IU last year. That's why I know his name. And I was like, I wonder how many former IU players that left for the transfer portal are on teams that are going to be in the tournament. There were several, sadly, which is, again, hard to stomach when you're sitting at home, but several of them are on teams that are actually 8 and up seed, so they couldn't qualify for my underdog theory. There's a guy playing for Miami. Ohio State has a player, and so the only one that was an underdog was, excuse me, Texas A&M. So literally all I wrote down is they have a former IU player. So I'm trying to find them on my bracket. They play St. Mary's and they are a 10 seed. So that is one of the ones that I actually did pick on my real bracket in addition to in my underdog bracket. So
Okay.
rooting for Mackenzie Mbako. He was actually a pretty good player on last year's team. We have a new coach this year, so there's not a single holdover from last year's season. So everybody who wasn't graduating entered the transfer portal and went somewhere else. So the former IU guys are pretty scattered all over the country on different teams. But I liked Mackenzie when he was on the team last year, so I'll be pulling for him. And I probably Miami of Ohio or Miami of Florida with Malik Renew on that team this year as well.
Okay. I do not think I picked them to advance
Okay.
past the first round, so I
Yeah.
guess we'll see next week when we tape this if our predictions were right.
I'd love for them to win because in theory they would probably get Houston next if you assume Houston can make it past the Idaho Vandals. And we won't say deep dive into my dislike for the Houston coach, but as always, it always goes back to Indiana, even though it is admittedly a 20-year-old grudge that I am still holding, but is not super relevant anymore. I hang on to it pretty hard. So if somehow a former IU player could take down the former IU coach that I'm not a fan of, I'm here for that content too.
And
Happy to be
honestly,
petty about it for sure.
yeah, honestly, Houston is a Big 12 team. I don't like them just for my love of the Cyclones, so I
There
am
you
okay
go.
seeing them go down. But I would
Yep.
prefer they make it a couple rounds to keep my bracket intact. But we'll
They are
see.
not in my Final Four, that's for sure. I did pick them winning a couple games because it seems a little unrealistic that they're going to be taken down by Idaho, but be happy to watch that happen.
Yeah. All right. My fourth and final team of the Underdog Draft is Santa Clara University. All right. And they're also in the Midwest region. I will say lots of teams I liked in the Midwest region for upsets. So it makes me a little nervous because my team, Iowa State, is also in that bracket. But I think it's an easier bracket for Iowa State. I was happy with the bracket that they got dumped into, but Santa Clara is a 10 seed. They are going up against Kentucky, which is a 7 seed, and I feel like Kentucky has just kind of been fading to the background since they lost Perry, and they're just not the same Kentucky they were, back in the early 2000s. So I really think that Santa Clara has the power to be able to do it. And, I was just doing a quick Google search to find me a fun fact here because I didn't actually have anything written down. And this is the first time in 30 years that Santa Clara, which I believe they're Northern California, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So this is the first time in 30 years that Santa Clara is heading back to the tournament. They are the Broncos. Did not know that. Their logo is just like an SCU. I did not see a Bronco in that, but they are the Broncos. And the last time they reached the tournament in 1996, do you know who led them that year?
Ooh, I do not. This was sort of my era because it's going to date me, but that's when I graduated from college. So I do not know who that would have been. Santa
A
Clara.
famous Phoenix Suns guard.
It wasn't Steve Nash, was it? Oh, I was
It
thinking he went
was.
to why did I think he went to Gonzaga? I must be thinking of somebody else. Okay.
Yeah, it says here that the last time they reached the championship, the tournament, it was led by point guard Steve Nash.
Huh. Okay.
So there you go. So I have Joe
Interesting.
Dumars alumni and I have Steve Nash alumni.
Yeah, that's
I
impressive.
guess.
For these small
Yeah.
schools, especially back then
Yeah.
when you didn't have like the TV deals and, nowadays it's the tournaments broadcast, every single game is on TV. I think it's easier to be a superstar out of a small school than it used to be. So for some of these guys to come out of these schools when it was probably really hard to get noticed, that's kind of impressive. So yeah, I'm assuming Santa Clara is in Santa Clara, California.
Yeah,
I would
that's what I
imagine.
would. It's about 6,700 undergraduate
Okay.
kids. So it's actually one of the smaller schools in the
Yeah.
tournament. Probably not as small as Queens,
Yep.
but it is small. So I'm sure all the students are hyped up for that.
Yeah, that's definitely fun. So I think the other school I had on my list, just in case I had a backup, just in case you stole one of mine, was High Point, which is just north of here too. So again,
Yeah,
another North Carolina school. I thought that'd be kind of fun to root for them. Like several schools have the men and the women both won their conference tournament, so they're in both brackets. So yeah, super cool for them.
yeah. Um, that yeah, I was surprised to hear that team, especially for both men and women. That
Yeah,
definitely surprised me. That's another team you just don't hear about in the local news, and I have to imagine they are a smaller school as well.
yeah.
So to have that kind of representation is great.
Yeah, I read that they'd won 14 in a row. So I think they are also one of those teams that could be kind of a good upset. They're playing Wisconsin. So as a Big Ten fan, my loyalties tend to lie there. But again, I'm all for a good upset. So would be nice to see them. And then the other fun fact, sort of talking about teams that have both in the men and the women's, I think you and I had texted a little bit because Miami of Ohio, the women's team won out their conference tournament, so got the automatic qualifier. And then the controversy of, would the undefeated Miami Redhawks men's team make it in? So I was kind of curious how many schools have men and women both in the tournament. And there are, if I counted right, 28 of them. So that's 41% of the field. That's pretty impressive that there are so many schools that have clearly not only funded the men's side, but also the women's side. And lots of them are big schools that maybe aren't as surprising, but teams like High Point and, Miami of Ohio, Cal Baptist is another one that, is a small school in California that has both men and women playing in the tournament. That's kind of cool for those fans that they got lots of basketball to watch the next couple days.
Yeah. And girl, look at you. You say you're not an analyst and you're spitting out statistical facts here. So I think you have earned that expert designation.
It's a good thing Google can tell you what things that you want to know. Or in this case, I literally counted how many teams were in both. And it did, 40 or 28 divided by 68. So the calculator helped out with that math. So, yep.
Cool.
And then I think the other team we were talking about before we started the podcast was the Nebraska men's team. So they've come out a little bit. And obviously, being a Big Ten fan, I've been paying attention to them. Their women's team also in the bracket as well. And they have made the tournament 8 times. So they did not count for my underdogs. So I couldn't pick them for that, but I did want to highlight them. So in their history, they've made the tournament 8 times. I Googled because I wasn't sure how long the tournament had been going on. It's over 85 years of,
Oh, wow.
now back then it was 8 teams. So obviously it's grown a ton over the years, but Nebraska has made the tournament 8 times. They have won 0 times. So this is their shot at finally getting a tournament win. And even a couple of the analysts on the show I was watching yesterday said that while they don't tend to try and, be fans of teams, you know, that they were going to root for Nebraska to finally get themselves a win. So just hard to imagine that I was a little surprised they'd only been in it 8 times, but that they hadn't had any wins. So I'll be cheering them on a little bit to see if they can't get over that hump.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know if you said that leading up to this fact, but they're the only power conference team in the tourney that has not won past the
Oh,
first
that's probably
round.
why that's getting so much
Yeah,
attention, right? That they were picking them. So
yeah.
I forget who they are playing. Troy. So because they're a force,
Yes.
so this, not only is this probably is their best shot at finally getting themselves a win since
Yeah.
they're certainly not an underdog this year. So yeah.
Cool.
Alrighty. So that is our underdog bracket. Some of these teams, I'm guessing we will not be seeing in the first
We'll
round.
report back
Yeah.
next week, and we'll see
Hopefully at
how
least
well
a
we
few of
did.
them.
Beth,
Yeah.
you'll give us our stats on how well we
There you go.
performed in this bracket picking exercise. I can't believe we didn't pick
Uh,
any overlapping teams. So
Yep, that's kind of cool.
look
So
at
I think that
us.
tells you too, there's so many fun stories to,
Yeah.
whether they're again, most of mine from the lens of Indiana. I've gotta find somebody to root for that has a connection to Indiana since they're not playing, or they're just fun stories in terms of their history. I think that's what everybody loves about this tournament. And then hopefully we're in for some good, Cinderellas, buzzer beaters, and chaos over the next couple days.
For sure. I will be losing sleep because I will be watching basketball nonstop, but I love it. It really is the best time of year for sure.
Yeah, my first couple of years out of college, I still lived in Indiana. And, there's a saying that we like to say in the 49 other states, it's just basketball, but this is Indiana. And so most of the people I worked with took Thursday, Friday off. This was sort of like, it's not a national holiday. I think it was just like a state of Indiana holiday. People didn't
Yeah.
come to work. This is all they did was watch those first two rounds. So while I was a fan of the tournament before that, this definitely, living in the state of Indiana, will cement your love for basketball for sure. It also will break your heart over and over again, but it definitely makes you love basketball. So,
All right, with that, you want to close us out?
yeah, so obviously we talked a lot about the men's tournament. We are both big women's sports fans, so we will be talking about the women's bracket next week when we do this. Probably take a different slant on it, but Jenny and I both are big fans of women's college basketball. We'll tell you a fun story about our trip to Nebraska to catch a women's volleyball game at some point. And then again, my love of women's basketball kind of got reclaimed when the IU team was so good the last couple of years. So while we didn't talk about them a whole lot here, it's not because we're not big fans and we won't be watching. We're definitely excited to watch them tip off this week as well. And then we'll find an angle to sort of share our love of them next week on the women's side. So I think that is it. We are going to close out for our first episode. Hope everybody enjoys March Madness and stays up late and goes horse cheering for your favorite team, or I'm sure we'll have some good crying on television as well. You got to love those memes that get created.
And we'll end it with one shining moment.
There you go. Yeah, it's hard to believe in a couple of weeks we'll be there already. So, yep.
Awesome. All right. Well, catch us next week for more sports stories and March Madness updates. We'll see you next time.